Andrew is doing a whole range of things, and I think he and I are involved in several global initiatives in terms of restarting. There are a lot of happening right now, restarting or redevelopment of tourism and things like that. So he can bring not only the Maltese example, but also the global environment. Andrew is the director of the Maltese Hotel and Restaurant Association, and he can bring us up to speed with what Malta is doing.
Thank you, Dimitrios. Of course, as we have heard during this webinar, the biggest challenge is to try to balance between safeguarding lives and safeguarding livelihoods. And probably the first phase of the pandemic, the focus, rightly so, was focused on lives. So lives took a priority. The focus of our governments, of our leaders, was to try to contain the spread of the pandemic, and this is what happened in Malta. All the airport was closed. Hence, of course, our operations, our tourism operations, were shut down. And of course, as I'm sure you know, the tourism sector in Malta represents 35% of the GDP. So basically, this put on hold our economy. And worse, I would say, the fact that we were experiencing for the past 8 years record year of tourism, one after the other. So the atmosphere was very positive. There was a feel-good factor, and people were investing a lot in the tourism product. Then suddenly this came out of the blue. The pandemic came out of the blue and has put everybody on crisis. But if there's anything which this COVID-19 has done, is that it has brought us all on the same boat, whether you are from China, whether you are from America, whether you're in Africa, Mediterranean, or North of Europe. So these are the challenges which now we are all facing. So the first phase of this experience of ours from a Maltese perspective was focus on containing the pandemic. I think we have managed to do an excellent job. Our authorities have done an excellent job. Today, the latest update is that we have 64 active cases in a population of 500,000. So I would say that it is very, very good. And now the focus is on the next phase, on reopening the operations, first locally as an island, because of course we have the situation of being an island, which then complicates a bit things for us, because of course we cannot rely on local tourism. Tourism in Malta represented 2.6 million last year, so shutting down 2.6 million of incoming tourists from overseas and trying to replace that with local tourism is impossible. It doesn't make sense. So we have the challenge. This week we have started to release the lockdown measures. So certain non-essential operations, retail outlets started to open. We have not yet any clear direction of what's going to happen to the tourism sector. Of course, I mean, we're discussing about it. Just before this conference, I was in a meeting with the Minister of the Economy and the Minister of Tourism, because it is key in order to restart to the Maltese economy. However, there is, I would say, a conflict between the health authorities and the politicians supporting now the reopening of the economy, which is probably the same thing all over the world. We as an association have been very, I would say now we're reaching a stage of being militant, and we have also called on to government to start reopening the restaurants by the end of this month. Of course, while respecting what has been achieved by the health authorities, but we need to start discussing of when we're going to relaunch, reignite our economies through tourism. And I must say that a number of restaurants today were cleaning and preparing for the reopening. Definitely, it's not an easy challenge, because here we're dealing with the unknown. As in Alexandros' presentation, the graph which showed the second wave and the third wave of the Spanish flu, God forbid, we reach to that stage with the COVID-19, because that would really spell big disaster. Because up to now, we have in one way or another managed the economic situation. In Malta, the government has been very proactive to inject support, direct support in supporting the entrepreneurs with paying the salaries of €800 per employee. And we are now discussing to extend this support to a further 3 months. And other measures such as bank loan moratoriums, the deferral of taxes. But of course, we all know that this cannot happen for a long time because it has a cost, which at the end of the day, we as taxpayers have to repay in the future. The importance of reigniting the tourism sector here in Malta is critical for us. Not easy, Dimitrios, not easy.
Thank you. I know it's and Malta in particular has got a very high proportion of British travelers, don't you? Yeah, it's primarily
because this is the British market is the number one source market for us. Then there's Italy, yeah, Germany, Spain. So we really managed to hit them all. And of course, the challenge is that even if we have to open the airport tomorrow, that depends also on the quarantine measures, as already have been highlighted, but also on the opening of other markets, thus releasing also the bans on the movement and travel situation.
Has the government announced when they expect that you will be opening airports and when you would expect to bring tourists in?
Nothing yet.
Nothing
yet. Next Friday, we have a webinar with the minister, and hopefully she will be announcing some release of the measures, or at least.
I think a lot of the governments, and actually a lot of the immunologists, do not necessarily understand how the industry works, and they kind of. They are quite reluctant to announce things because a lot of those things are based on what's happening with the R0 and how it's progressing and all the rest of it. But equally, they don't understand that for us to open the business, we'll need the 2 to 3 months preparation time. For a plane to get out, it needs 2 or 3. It's not like a corner shop that you can open tomorrow. It needs awfully a lot of preparation and a lot of people to get together to actually operate a hotel or an airline or an airport or whatever. And quite often, a lot of our guests are turning up in a hotel and they have a happy experience, but they don't understand how much planning, work, and preparation has actually been involved before we get to that stage. And I think we're suffering from that for the time being. And somehow we need to inform governments and ministers on operational challenges that we've got, supply, value chains. Barbara was talking about value chains earlier on, and Immaculada, to bring all of those people. And I was saying yesterday to someone, I said, how long do you think it will take to bring people in, get them in a uniform, train them again on the new protocols? Because you may have a housekeeper who has always done it, but now you need to train her again from the beginning and get them in operations. And then the next stage is really the economics of all that, because the new protocols require double the amount of waiting staff, double the amount of housekeeping staff, and probably 1.5 times the people on the front office. So all the economics are becoming really. We really need to look into all the economics again. And I've been labeled as pessimist, but I think unless someone can actually look into all of those things, they cannot.
Yeah. On the point of training, as you know, Dimitrios, we're in sync with the Maltese government here on this front because they have understood the importance of the training of our employees, and especially now that things are changing, the operations are changing. So, in collaboration with Forbes Travel Guide, we have launched now a massive training program targeting some 25,000 people. So that in the meantime, while our people are at home, we take this opportunity to prepare them for the new tomorrow. Um, so we are the season as regards to being pessimistic or optimistic. I would say I'm organizing a various number of focus groups every week with hoteliers and restaurateurs here in Malta to to keep the feel of what's happening there on the field. And I would say that the seasoned, if I had to bring it in a nutshell, the seasoned hoteliers, the seasoned tourism operators, if one had to assume that the airports reopen in October, they're all thinking that some form of business will start to start in the beginning of March of next year. So I would say, rather than calling ourselves optimistic or pessimistic, I think this is the reality.
Pragmatism hits.
Yeah.
And I think something that Marina was saying earlier, a lot of new experts have appeared in our field, kind of spreading various things. Okay, great. Thank you very much, Andrew.
Thank you.
Let me ask you one last question. Does the Maltese government has the Maltese government issued protocols of operations for different kind of businesses? And
Sorry. No, not yet. Basically, I'm aware that they are compiling them. They haven't yet consulted with us. It is usually the practice that they consult with the association before they go out. From the information that I have is that they still need clearance internally between the health authorities, again, which is always the challenge, to bring together the economics and the health side together.
Thank you very much.